Something interesting is happening all around the world, even though most people don't even realize it. Gold prices are quietly breaking records, and investors are rushing to buy it. Where are they rushing to buy it from? Africa. Gold boom going on around the world, and countries in Africa are not left out because Africa is a very rich land. Countries like Ghana, Burkina Faso, Sudan, South Africa, and many other parts of Africa, Congo, are sitting on very large deposits of gold worth billions and billions of dollars. Can you imagine that? You see, with the gold prices going crazy now, higher than ever before, these countries I mentioned now are making record money from gold sales. If these countries can invest properly in gold boom going on right now in Africa, in all parts of the world, why not? Their countries will be transformed. Because this is the twist. With all this gold boom, many of these African countries are still, in fact, many parts of Africa are still struggling. Right now, check out the news. The gold prices are exploding to the levels where the world has ever seen before. Gold is now as high as 5,000 US dollars, showing that gold has become more expensive more than ever in human history. So you see, these African countries that are sitting on deep deposits of gold can make the best out of it. The whole of Africa has large scattered gold deposits, even though there are more concentration of gold in many parts more than the other. If African countries or maybe African continent is actually not benefiting from the gold, who is actually benefiting? These are some of the questions that should stir Africans. So looking at Africa as one of the top gold sources. So you see, Africa has a major role in global gold supply, even though Africa has the smallest gold reserve, global gold reserve. So why is it so? The gold reserves in Africa are very small, but the mine production going on in Africa is very huge, very massive. So a big chunk of these valuable resources or materials leaves Africa, especially gold, leaves Africa raw or unfiltered. So leaving Africa raw, unfiltered, means that it leaves Africa without having any added value inside of Africa. So if African continent or African countries should stop exporting raw, unfiltered gold to other parts of the world and think of a way to refine it within Africa, how much do you think Africa will be making? Countries in Africa will be super rich if well managed, because with the price of gold going this high, hitting these high records in a very long time, potential earnings for most African producers looks fat is very huge. Theoretically, these countries like Ghana, Mali, South Africa could be making close to 20 billion US dollars a year alone from gold. But in reality, these countries are earning only but a small fraction from the market value. That is because most of these countries export this gold, before it is refined, processed, or turned into high-value products. You see, much of the profits goes to most of the mining companies. And who would you blame? This is one of the things we see happening many times in African continents, where products or materials and resources, natural resources, are moved out of Africa in unrefined states and shipped back into Africa and sold back to Africa. So some of the bottlenecks that African continents or African countries are having in producing raw gold or cashing in on this gold boom is that many African countries don't even have local gold refineries. Aside the fact that we have a lot of big foreign refineries, foreign mining companies, extracting gold from African countries, they don't even have their local mining factories, to have their own gold produced by them, processed, refined, and exported back to the world. You see, some of these things are big challenges in many parts of African countries. Despite all these challenges, some countries like Ghana, Mali are starting to change the course. Ghana has started investing in local refining capacity so that gold can be processed, exported at higher value than just ship it out raw as it is. This shows a growing awareness that gold production is only part of the wealth equation, but processing and refining is where the real value can be unlocked, at least within the country. It is also very important to understand the factors that is pushing or causing gold boom happening around the world now. Most countries like the Central Bank of America or India, China, even Turkey, they are amassing large amounts of gold into their gold reserves, seeing gold as a hedge against any financial shock, against inflation, against any kind of economic uncertainties. You see, I don't even know if, or we don't even know if African stakeholders are seeing it that way. So to boast the gold reserves of their countries. If Africa is one of the major suppliers of the metal that the whole world wants, that shows African gold is part of the global system. The value capture depends on how Africa or African stakeholders positions themselves in this financial ecosystem. So what Africa needs isn't just gold, it needs better systems that can transform or change gold into jobs, factories, technologies, and that could lead to becoming a foundation of a lasting prosperity in African continent. I talk about things I find interesting about Africa, and please do take a moment to subscribe because it helps us or supports us in some ways. Thank you.